This is a screen capture for use on DCTV, and now I wanted to show you what I've been looking at on Twitter Analytics, which tells me how my information is being spread over the internet. This is a clip about the internet, and what you see is Twitter Analytics has showed that one of my followers has a dashboard which shows you how many people are following her, and actually this information was edited. Oh no, here it is at the very top. 1.1 million people in Dr. Joyce's network, and in the Carroll Trust you can see that they have over 2 million people in their network, and one of the other followers, Brenda Skylstad, has 58,000 people in her network. And I wanted to show you one of the popular tweets, which was saying simply that 52 people had retweeted it and 57 people had liked it, talking about how the banking cartel is working to shape perceptions of reality. And I'm going to explain in this clip how that's done. And I also had said this is actually a screenshot of my tweet on the 21st of July to give you a sense of what's really happening. The global currency reset to rid humanity of the corrupt money system that is keeping us enslaved is on track. And with every passing day, it's growing increasingly difficult for the banking cartel to continue. Right now, the banking cartel is concentrating its efforts on trying to convince me that the power transition model from the U.S. National War College, and you'll see this happens periodically on my computer because I'm hacked by any number of intelligence agencies. And right now they know I'm recording and they're going to interfere if they possibly can. Anyway, what I was saying before I was interrupted was that the power transition model from the U.S. National War College, which is 90 to 95% accurate, it's holding true. And this model, which the U.S. military owns and understands, is on track. This means that General Dunford's treason is exposed. And I'm asking whether we have heard from General Dunford to defend himself, because this is going out over the internet. And it's also going to the people in the military. Also, I'm asking you whether you heard any of the 189 ministers of finance and development on the World Bank's Board of Governors, or any of the member countries of the World Bank and IMF contradict anything I have been saying, including that I'm authorized to speak for them about the global currency reset. And I'm also asking whether you heard Donald Trump or Neil Gorsuch say that the U.S. Constitution of 1789 is in effect, because it is not. This week, my followers have been very busy exposing the death rattle and lies and corruption of the banking cartel. And one of the things that I tweeted on the 16th of July was a ticket to the global currency reset, and we'll go into that in more detail later on in this segment. And this picture right now I've been showing because somebody had criticized that my information was too long and they didn't want to read all of that. Could I please make it easier to understand? So this picture shows you that this is at the top. You can see here, these are the moguls in the banking industry, and they are enslaving humanity here. And you see in this street art some of the other things that the banking cartel has been doing. And then this, it's actually not a live link, but I'm showing you what I featured in my previous segment about what Robert Kennedy said, that there's a revolution coming which will be peaceful if we are wise. And yes, we are wise, and the revolution will be peaceful. Now, this is talking about Google, because Google is owned by it was created by the CIA, and Google owns YouTube. I've been uploading all of these segments on DCTV on YouTube, and they've been trying to interfere. And that simply shows us that they're not as powerful, because we can correct them, and they're just simply demonstrating their impotence. And what I've been talking about are some of the mind control devices that the banking cartel is using to try to prevent us from reacting. And the point that I've been making is that it's not perfect, and it doesn't control a number of people, and those people that are not sensitive to this technology, we're getting through to the rest of the people who are, and nobody is actually robbed of their will, their free will. What happens is that they're like hypnosis, they're swayed, and if people inform them that they've been influenced, they can take measures to counteract that influence. And one of the things that I've been saying is that if somebody insists that no, there's no such thing as mind control, and they're certainly not under the influence, that's usually a pretty good indicator that that's a person who is susceptible to mind control. Now, one of the other things I wanted to show you, and that's why we're doing these screenshots, is what YouTube uses as its symbol for exit full screen, and how that's similar to other symbols. This is the symbol of the Teutonic Knights Cross, and this is the symbol of the German cross. This is the symbol of the Nazi flag, and this is the symbol of the Swiss Octogon. And this right here, that's the symbol that YouTube wants for exit full screen. And you can see in a product forum on Google that other people noticed this similarity, and they were saying it looks like a Nazi symbol. Would YouTube please remove it? Well, they never did. They were not responsive. Okay, now the other thing I wanted to show you, and we'll go into that in greater depth, is a tweet in Russia Insider, and this is really very significant. It is saying that Russia's largest bank has made the first transaction on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which is using gold to pay for the international trade between China and Russia. And what this means is that the United States, we have monetary gold reserves, so do all the nations, and we're going to be switching our currency out of the paper currency to use our monetary gold reserves. And that's the whole point of the global currency reset. And people who have been hearing about this are grateful. And of course, what I've been doing is I've been communicating with everybody, because we are all working together on this reality. And what I've said in a comment was, in the global currency reset, which has been agreed to by the Coalition for Law on the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF, and this is the group that oversees the world's monetary gold reserves, all nations are moving into gold currencies. During this transition, we are winding down the banking cartel in the global debt facility, which contains the world's monetary gold reserves. The bilateral Minesfield Breakthrough Successor Agreement, agreed to on behalf of the United States by Truman and Eisenhower, is what governs. And I have put Donald Trump and the rest of the banking cartel's agents on notice that they are mere imposters and have no legitimacy. And this is what Donald Trump had tweeted. He said he was honored to serve as Commander-in-Chief to the courageous men and women of our U.S. Armed Forces. And I have said that he is an imposter. He is not the Commander-in-Chief, and that's because the U.S. Constitution of 1789 is not in force and effect, and the U.S. military has sworn its allegiance to the U.S. Constitution. So Donald Trump, he's just a play actor. He's a bit actor. He's an imposter. And I've also been talking about how the gold that belongs to the U.S. is going to be minted in our currency. It handles just like paper. It's going to take a while to do. And so we're going to have currency issued by the U.S. Treasury in the interim as an interim measure. But all of the countries of the world are going to be issuing their currency in gold. And this was a tweet that I had tweeted a number of years ago. What I'm telling you is that the ones who have the money are us in the Global Debt Facility, which is a trust administered by the World Bank and IMF. If you want to know what assets are in the Global Debt Facility, just look at the inventory list at the foot of a letter which was cleared by the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF. This letter says simply that the bankers owe us more than we owe them. This letter is our ticket to the global currency reset. Country debt is eliminated. Interest on country debt is eliminated. Our paper money is a scam and is getting replaced by real money from the Global Debt Facility and local currency that is going to be issued by our local villages and towns. The bankers appointed the president of the World Bank and the managing director of the IMF, but Kim and Lagarde are under the control of the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF. That is, the ministers of finance and development of the countries that belong to the World Bank and IMF. And I gave a legal opinion about that. I'm the lawyer for the Global Debt Facility that contains the world's wealth that is administered by whom? Not the bankers, not Kim and Lagarde, the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF. What is toxic to the bankers is that a political scientist named Jacek Kugler came to the World Bank in 2004 with a power transition model that predicts how coalitions will form and enabled us to show how coalitions form to defeat the bankers. Did you hear me? Defeat the bankers. Even if some of the Board of Governors are corrupt, they are unable to ignore the coalitions on the Board of Governors. And this is the link to the model. The bankers who buy your politicians and brought you World Wars I and II and the Holocaust and tried their hardest to bring you World War III are insolvent. They are in receivership in the Global Debt Facility. Where are we now? We have shown the hidden handiwork of the lawyers and accountants that are trying to keep this corrupt system in place, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. We have discredited totally the mainstream media that censor the real news. The social media, Twitter, and there I'm giving you links on that, they're the places to follow. What's going on now? The General Counsel of the DC Council was replaced, and this is saying that the District of Columbia doesn't belong. It's a completely independent city-state which is owned by globalist bankers, used for worldwide military power and funded by American citizens. In the meanwhile, that military power is eroding because people see through this scam. And then Alice Castano has been telling us about a study. Professors Martin Gillens at Princeton University and Benjamin Page at Northwestern University looked at more than 20 years worth of data to answer a simple question: does the government represent the people? Their study took data from nearly 2,000 public opinion surveys and compared it to the policies that ended up becoming law. In other words, they compared what the public wanted to what the government actually did. What they found was extremely unsettling. The opinions of 90% of Americans had essentially no impact at all. Gillens and Page found that the number of Americans for or against any idea has no impact on the likelihood that Congress will make it law. And we're going to skip away from the rest of the findings of that study. But this is to show that the U.S. has been under state capture by the banking cartel. Now, let me show you something else, which is an article about something which is very alarming. It's talking about something that Google is doing. Google is making you think when you do a search that you're finding out what's really on the internet, whereas it's been curated, it's been edited. So if you do a search using Google on me, they'll just show you disinformation about me. They won't show you the real information. And this is about an article in Politico. This was before the presidential election. Research in recent years suggests that Google Inc. has amassed far more power to control elections, indeed, to control a wide variety of opinions and beliefs than any company in history has ever had. Google's search algorithm can easily shift the voting preferences of undecided voters by 20% or more, up to 80% in some demographic groups, with virtually no one knowing they're being manipulated, according to experiments I conducted recently with a man called Ronald Robertson. Given that many elections are won by small margins, this gives Google the power right now to flip upwards of 25% of the national elections worldwide. In the US, half of our presidential elections have been won by margins under 7.6%. Okay, that's something that Google's been doing. And I also wanted to show you, we don't have that. I'll come back to it. I'll try to refresh it. I was trying to show you something that I had tweeted, but here we go. On mind control. And if you push that link, and this was actually retweeted by many more than 13 people and liked by many more than 12 people. This information on the internet is not accurate. But what I had said was to a person, Mary was not her real name actually. Thank you for your email. What you have sent is incorrect. The electromagnetic weaponry influences people. Some people are more susceptible to that kind of influence than others, just as it's impossible to hypnotize some people. Why would you want to misinform people about this? That's because this person who sent me the email is actually the banking cartel. They use sock puppets and other people. I got another email from this person. I'm very certain from that second email that this is really the banking cartel that was trying to make people worry about this weaponry. But as you see, even if they can put suggestions in my mind, if I don't agree with those suggestions, I don't follow them. And once you know about this capability, you're going to sleep over anything you're deciding to do and decide whether it makes sense or doesn't. Anyway, what I said to her was, perhaps you think the banking cartel's weapons against humanity are more powerful than they actually are. I'm publishing your email and the link which you sent to me mostly because it's important for people to understand that military scalar electromagnetic weapons are being deployed against the civilian population. I've been in contact with targeted individuals for many years. I and my family members have also had these weapons used against us. My free will remains intact. I take my time before reacting in order to sift through my reasons for acting, and am now quite able to figure out what it is that I choose to do. I also run important decisions past other people who are working to end the banking cartel. so that we are able to isolate this weaponry. There is actually a potential way to turn this weaponry against the banking cartel, because once you can figure out what needs to be done, a lot of information can be gained from it. And now you see they've frozen my ability to read the rest of the letter. Okay, here we go. For example, I take it from your email that the banking cartel is now lying to people and trying to frighten them into thinking that humanity has lost its free will, when humanity is gaining additional motivation to fight against and resist this immoral weaponry. And then this is the email that I received from this person, which said, trying to exaggerate the power of this technology. And here's the link that I showed. Okay, now I'm stopping this if I can find the buttons, and we'll go further.